Well, good afternoon. Uh, as you can see, I am not George Bardisi, but I am standing in today for George. He's on his way to ThreatLocker's Zero Trust World, where I will be getting in the car within about 2 hours and driving the 8 hours or so down to the Orlando area myself, meeting up with George and a lot of other, all of our friends in the channel down there, including some of your team, I'm sure, Jackie from Liongard. So we're here every Tuesday and Thursday. We hope you join us. We can see all of you folks coming in and joining in and being a part of it. We, at some point, will open up, and just like we always do, open mic, so you can get in and be a part of the community conversation that we have going on here. But today we have Jackie from Liongard. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you for
joining
having
me. And, yeah, thanks for joining me on this ad hoc. You know, you came in and you were like, wait a minute, that's not true. so what's going on? How's Liongard? What's going on in the world of Liongard these days?
Well, with most startups, we've always got a lot going on. We just wrapped up 2022 and lots of product enhancements and really improving the architecture that's already there, which is a huge win for our partners. And then, rounding out the year here, coming into 2023, we're looking at another year full of events. We've got lots of great features and updates to the platform plan. So we're excited. It's an exciting time to be here, planning out for 2023 and kind of figuring out where we're going to invest our time and our resources and how we're going to connect with more MSPs. I mean, that's the name of the channel, right? Is how to connect with people and how to be where they are. So that's what we're really focused on this year.
Right. So, I think when I go back and I look, I started working with Liongard, Ben and Joe, back when you had, I think, 30 clients, and that rapid growth over the last couple of years and all that. What's some of the evolution of like the product and the product lifecycle that you've seen? I mean, I'm not sure how long you've been there, but I'm sure you've seen quite a bit in a very short period of time.
Yep. So I've been with Liongard a little over a year. I've been in the channel my whole life. My parents owned an MSP. I was at the MSP at 2 weeks old, and that's where I hung out after school. So I've seen a lot of evolution in the industry. And being on the vendor side of things is a different change of pace. You really kind of start to appreciate different perspective and how you're making very thoughtful decisions about where to focus your resources and your time. But in the year plus that I've been here, just seeing a really intentional investment in making sure that the platform that we've already built to this point is prepared to scale and grow. You mentioned that we had about 30 partners, and we're approaching 2,000 partners now, which is exciting. But it's also like, how do you continue to invest in the system and the platform so that it can grow as the organization grows, right? Because you're talking about a massive scale of growth, and across those 2,000 partners, you've got some people that are managing maybe 15 customers, and you've got some MSPs that might be managing 1,500 customers. So really creating a platform that's going to serve everybody and continue to grow with the needs of our partners has been a big focus, and I think it's the right focus, and it's exciting to be a part of.
Yeah, no doubt. So there's a lot of things that we've all been facing on both sides of the coins this year. A lot of the big things. I think yesterday IBM said they were laying off a big part of their workforce. I know that Liongard went through some changes. Everybody's getting recession proof. Is that I hate to use the quote marks or but I guess everybody's kind of hunkering down for this. So what are you guys seeing? Are you seeing contraction within your base? Or are you seeing what are you guys seeing from an outbound type?
Yeah. I'm hesitant to use the capital R recession term because it's very nerve-wracking. I think we are making decisions internally just to kind of prepare for these uncertainty right now. I think that's the easiest way to we can use a capital U, uncertainty, if you want. But with our partners, what we are seeing with our partners is everybody is being very careful about their IT stack and how they're managing their stack and making sure that they are getting the absolute most value they can out of their existing tool set. And that's an area where we really feel like we deliver a lot of value is you can scale with Liongard at a rate that you can't scale without us. You don't have to add additional employee headcount. And if you're looking at a time right now where you really kind of are tightening up things and making sure that you're operating as efficiently as possible, that's a huge bonus for our existing partners to say, we already know that we're getting a huge amount of value from you, but how can we invest further in Liongard, and how can we implement it into more of our processes so that we can be more efficient with the tools that we're managing, providing the same level of service to our customers, but we're not increasing the bottom line spend. So we're expecting to see people kind of lean into the tool more and start to ask for, more features, more resources, all of those things, as they lean into the tool, they'll start to knock on our door and say, hey, the tool's great, but what if it did, XYZ? And that's why the platform is built, is to serve their needs. So hearing that kind of feedback and that ongoing conversation is really important.
So integrations, I'm hearing the big word, integrations, right? API, and that's always a big challenge in itself, right? Just managing all those APIs and talking to them and all that. Where are you guys finding challenges with that? Are you finding it in the APIs, the partners, the code, the people, getting the people to do it? Where's the challenges for you?
Well, I do want to say for all of the audience that I was promised we weren't going to talk about code on this podcast.
I'm not talking code. I'm just like using the word generic now. Come on, Jackie. Come on.
Okay. All right.
You can call a friend though. I gave you that option.
You did. That's fair. I think we have heard from some partners that are managing their own scripts, right? They're doing all of this stuff internally. And one of the challenges, especially now when you've got, probably limited resources in your MSP or fixed resources even this year, is how do you keep up with the absolute rapid change that's happening at the API level or with each one of your tools in the stack? Thankfully, we have a very capable and talented engineering group and a great product team that's kind of leading the charge. It's not anything I have to worry about, but they are continually kind of going out and figuring out where are things going next. Like Microsoft threw everybody a curveball. How do we prepare our MSPs for taking on those challenges and making sure that the platform is pulling the most up-to-date information, but it's also pulling the information that our MSPs need. And I think part of that discussion happens, at an integration level. What if I'm a vendor and I'm integrating with Liongard, what are some of the conversation points that we can have about where we're evolving our roadmap this year and how Liongard can kind of fit into that? And some of it is just, the product team and the product marketing team having a great pulse, on our customer base and figuring out anticipating kind of what are the next things that they're going to need and what are the next integrations that we need to build, or in our existing integrations, how can we expand them to pull more valuable information?
How many integrations do you guys have?
We are over 70, somewhere around 72, 73,
wow.
Somewhere in there.
Wow. So that's quite a feat to manage that alone.
It is. Yeah. And, if you think about like all of your major applications, they're pushing out product updates monthly. So, sometimes they push out an update and it's like, oh, all hands on deck, something in the integration is absolutely not working. And you have to be able to be adaptable and fix those things kind of on the fly.
Yeah. I hate those little updates that other manufacturers do, because we have our own SaaS product too that we use, and it can be very fragile in that sometimes, because one API breaks, so you fix that, and then it has a cascading effect down to other APIs because you change one parenthesis or something, something silly in the. I'm not saying that code word, so. So Jackie, you have something in your title that is near and dear to me. My company, Equilibrium Consulting, we are sales and marketing consultants for MSP and Channel, right? And that's how we originally got to know Vin and Joe and all that over the years. So, you've got all these integrations and all these products. What are some of the challenges as a marketeer that you face?
It is being a product expert. I think just understanding the product, understanding the market, and then trying to understand at a detailed level all of the integrations when you talk about 70 integrations, that's 70 other vendors where you have to know their position in the market almost as well as you know your own, to figure out where are the co-marketing opportunities, how can we partner with them, what are the better together stories. That's a story that we like to tell all the time at Liongard is, hey, we're better together. Whatever your tool is, plug it into Liongard and both tools become more powerful. And having to understand their tool, understand their position in the market, how they serve their partners, kind of what their value prop is versus other areas, that really is, keeping up with that is, I think, the biggest challenge of being a marketer in this space with this type of tool.
So we always talk about in our space, and I'm sure you would agree, like, everybody's like, oh, email, oh, what's the secret in the sauce marketing? What?
It is human connection. It is absolutely human connection. I think the vehicle that you have the connection, whether it's over Zoom or social media or even an email campaign, the vehicle is one thing and mastering that is important, but being able to establish real relationships with people is going to drive marketing much farther than any sort of ad campaign or investment in a tool.
The trade shows are not dead? Is that what you're saying?
No.
In-person events are not dead?
I would say after COVID, I think after we all took a break from traveling and doing in-person events, now more than ever, I think people are really seeing the value in in-person events. Certainly has been an investment in digital events, things like this, where there's a ton of value and it allows people to join where they are and get the information that they need. But the connections that you make with people at in-person events, the kind of anecdotal stories on the edges that you hear that you maybe don't hear in an interview, they really can drive you in places that you hadn't considered before. Somebody says something to you in passing and you're like, wow, I didn't even know that there was a podcast about that out there. That's something I need to look into. Or I had no idea that there was this kind of cohort of MSPs that are a peer group that are focused on this very niche offering. Those things you don't normally get in more of a structured interview or, email communication. And when you're in person, you just really kind of get to understand people and their background and where they're focusing their efforts. And you pick up so much information that way, just having a conversation with them.
Yeah, no doubt. And like I said, I'm headed down to another event this week. I said to my wife, gee, I'm going to be home this year. And I'm already on my second week-long trip here, and I'm not even into, the first week of February. I will be, but, and there's rumors of a March trip already, which is not going to go over well. But there's so many of these things. What do you think is going to happen to this? I mean, I look at the master schedule, and there's so many events. They're piling on, and there used to be a time where they were spaced out. Now they seem to just pile up, and you've got 3 big brand or major events, that are competing with each other. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, it is interesting because I do remember a time when, there was maybe one flagship event a quarter, sometimes 2. And it was like everybody went to the one show and you could see everybody and kind of network. And we are seeing now some smaller events, some of these regional focused events pop up where they're drawing people that are close by. So the cost of travel is reduced, but it's also potentially drawing people that maybe can't afford some of those bigger flagship opportunities. And I think for the smaller and kind of entering into the space MSPs, it's great because they're still afforded the opportunity to network and learn and knowledge transfer at a much lower cost. For those of us on the vendor side, it can absolutely be grueling. Sometimes you're two events in a week, or you've got one team on one coast and one team on the other coast, and you're trying to kind of coordinate back and forth. But I do think the natural kind of evolution will be some level of consolidation. I don't think that we're going to be able to keep up the clip that we're at right now, where it's just every single week. But I would like to see some of these smaller regional events stay, because I think that they are drawing a different level of MSP that maybe can't afford, the bigger shows, or can't afford the travel, or even can't get away for 4 or 5 days, but they can maybe do 2 days. And I don't, for those MSPs that are kind of trying to break into the space or really get to the next level, it's important that they also get to participate in these things. So I would hate for some of the smaller ones to go away.
I agree. I think they're more personal, and they
Mhm.
bring that local crowd and peer sharing and stuff that, that local area goes. Now, Jackie, we have unmuted the audience, and so, and we have a couple rowdies that are in here every now and then. Keith Nelson, um, you know, so we do allow them to like break in and ask questions. But I'm gonna ask out. What do you guys think? Local events or big events? What do you think in the audience? From a vendor perspective, Jackie and I want to hear these kind of comments too.
Well, I could tell you, and I always have an odd opinion. I don't really meet with vendors except for 1 or 2 shows a year. I don't frequent a lot of shows. And it's like all my decisions are made maybe once or twice a year at a bigger event like an Exchange or a ConnectWise IT Nation. And I go, it's really at that point, I go, that's really where I'm going to make my decisions. So it has to be a combination of having booth time and one-on-one time to really engage a vendor. I like the booth time because you get to talk to other people that are already, using that product. And, part of the decision is I'm old, so I go back to the old WordPerfect Word days or Lotus and Excel where one's better one week and then the next week the other pulls ahead. So to me, more important than what has all the bells and whistles is who has the better community that we're going to engage, learn how to use the product better, and have the better advisory board. So they're going back to the developers, because we're also a software developer, and sometimes they're locked in a back room and they think everything they're developing is just A1 perfect, and they need to get that feedback that says, you know what, no one understands what you're doing, you're not in line. And that's and so I look for that sense of, community and engagement with their clients. I am a Liongard user, I'll just say that. And I've learned a lot from the staff, but I've learned a lot from other users. More and more, it's like, you see some of the agents and you go, this is like 90% where I want it to be. And someone says, oh, just do this and this, and it's where you want it to be. And that's normal in any product. That's not a knock on Liongard. That's the same with the PSAs, the RMMs. It's almost where you want it to be, and you need that user base and community to develop where it wants to go. There was one thing I want to say about a recession, and I'm going to dispute Pete a little bit. I'm not sure if we're getting into a recession or we're cycling back from a period of overspending and overstimulation. That's what I'm kind of hearing from the big companies, is everyone was overstaffed because they thought the checkbook was open forever, that we were going to keep having stimulus. If you look at Amazon, which we have a relationship with, and also I have children that work there, they're cutting back from places they were going to expand, not so much from their core, right? They were going to expand deeply into the entertainment. It was like everyone thought there was this endless faucet of money that was going to continue to flow. I think we're going to have a trying year, but I don't think it's going to. I think people are going to. It's almost a correction more than a recession. Just my opinion. But if I was right, I'd be really rich and live like Pete. But
I don't know. I see what you drive, and I'm going to tell you something. Jackie, we all have our checklist, right? When we sign up, like, are we going to sponsor an event or whatever? If I know Keith Nelson is going to be at an event, I know I can count on a cigar, so that gets a big check.
Yeah.
Right? I know at least I got a cigar. What's that?
And usually a pretty decent cigar.
Yeah, it is. It is. I've enjoyed a couple cigars that you've passed on, and I've always appreciated it. But that's always a plus. I think that goes back to community, though. When
Cigars?
you go and that you got some camaraderie and you've got some relationships, and it's more than just work, right? There's some things that you enjoy with others that are in that community, and at the bottom line, it's people, right? It's not necessarily your product or your sale. And Ken Patterson, if he were on here right now, he'd be ringing the bell like, yeah. But building the community.
It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming as well. I mean, I looked at, if I were to attend all the events people asked me to go to, I'd have like maybe 3 days actually doing my job this month. I mean, and I don't know how you vendors do it, where you kind of have to go, you're going like, between traveling, getting there, getting settled, getting set up, you're going like, well, I think there's like 3 events going on this week or next week, you know, and
It's nonstop, Keith. It's a on the MSP Initiative in the next couple of weeks, we will be publishing. We put together this massive calendar, and I know there's a few out there that people are broadcasting, but I think after we get this thing formatted and in there, you're going to be like, wow. It's pretty amazing when you can just see a calendar in front of you with all of these things overlapping. It's just amazing of how many there are, and they're not little ones. They're big name conferences now, so I get it.
At some point, there's gonna be more vendors than MSPs. There isn't already.
At some events, Precor, I think there are, but hey, it's good to hear your voice. Happy New Year, my friend.
Hey guys, I heard you guys say cigar. I jumped back in the call. Sorry, I had to step out for a minute.
Are your
cigars are the uniting force.
I'm a cigar guy.
See, I didn't know that. See, we have more in common every time we talk, right? See, this is what community is all about, right?
Yes.
So now we have 3 people on. Anybody else a cigar aficionado on this call? Greg, Mark, Bruce.
It's actually funny how that has become an intro. People will walk. When I was at IT Nation, I was in the elevator, and one of the young women that worked at ConnectWise, who I never even met, somehow they had left like 60 cigars up in a room instead of bringing it down to the booth. And she had this bag, and she goes, "I was told to look for you because you're the guy that won't let these go to waste."
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. And they're actually pretty good cigars for, a booth cigar. And I go, wow, is that all at least I have a reputation for something.
Well, I mean, cigars are a great topic. When you look at some of the things like MSP Initiative, we're known for the parties and Channel Strong, but at the parties, the last couple of years, we've done a cigar station sponsored by one of it. And every vendor that has sponsored the cigar station has come away with more community relationships, follow-ups, and all than some of them did actually at their booths on the floor, because people stay, they smoke the cigar, they need to get a light, and they kind of gather and talk and communicate and share. So, a marketing things that, people wouldn't even think. Keith, something that you love, you would congregate right to that. As a matter of fact, I think I've seen you go to that area at the parties.
Yes. I've also been known to drive up and hand out cigars.
I know that too.
What a great idea.
I've been the recipient of that. So
I'm getting ready to do my first show as a booth sponsor, actually, at a one of my verticals that are having a annual association meeting in Carlsbad. And I was thinking, well, what can I take? What can I hand out? Swag wise, koozies or bottle openers. But I'm like, cigars. What a freaking idea, Pete! I'm gonna have to hire your services. What a marketing deal!
I've told you that in the past, Precor, but
in for a charity golf tournament for Another Way, which during the terrorist attack in San Bernardino, I did cigars. And by the way, I did it with a local cigar shop. So my cost was roughly $20 to give people a really good cigar, because he chipped in to get the PR. And, normally 250 people go to a golf tournament, and only like 150 or so actually smoke cigars. But the response was like, it was better than people were giving away other stuff. And everyone goes, your cigar booth was so cool. Because, if I go to get a cozy, I'm just going to pick it up and walk away, right? And it may never even leave my bag. I'll get home but at a cigar booth, normally you sit down and, like Pete was saying, well, I need a light, I need your cutter, and we sit down and talk, and cigars an hour, at minimum. And then there's always that, discussion about, oh, what cigars do you like? What do you like to drink? It's a real door opener for me, at least.
Yeah. Well, I gotta tell you, over the years, and with Jackie on the session today with me, Liongard has done some pretty cool swag.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of known are having unique swag. I mean, there's a couple vendors that have unique swag, but Jackie, what as you think back over time, what's been some of the most swag in demand?
Yeah, that's, hearing you guys talk about the cigar bar, I think the challenge is with any of these events is how do you do something that stands out? Like, everybody shops from the same swag vendors. We all see the same promotional items that become hot every year, but how do you do something that people will remember you by? And I think there's a few that stand out. One of them was the sequined cowboy hats that we handed out. And I still see those sometimes pop up on our monthly calls, or, partners will come up specifically seeking us out and saying, did you bring the cowboy hats? It's like, no, sorry, that was, you had to be at that event. But that was one. Last year at IT Nation, we had these we gave out these baseball shirts, but we also gave out these really, really cool baseball hats with our logo kind of silver on gray on the front of it. And those were pretty highly sought out too, because it was high quality items. And I think that's one of the ways that we've tried to get it right is, go for the more usable items. So stuff that people actually want in their day-to-day life. So if it's going to be a t-shirt, make sure it's a t-shirt that somebody wants to wear. If it's going to be a hat, let's do a high quality hat that people actually are going to want to take out and wear on the weekends. And just, thinking about the life cycle of things, we want it to be something that people use, and every time they use it, think fondly about whatever event they picked it up at. And then another kind of clever thing that we've done is, making the booth really feel interactive. So we always have, beach balls or, something that's going to draw people in where they want to just come hang out with us in our booth so that we can have those conversations and, really just start to get to know each other and figure out if Liongard is the right fit for them. But swag it's an interesting thing. When I was in college getting a marketing degree, nobody told me how much time I would spend looking at promotional items and figuring out what could we put our logo on that somebody's going to want to take home in their suitcase, that they're not going to throw away, and that will actually, be a door opener for a conversation.
You've read the book Giftology, haven't you?
Sorry?
Have you read the book Giftology?
I have not, but it sounds like I need to add it to my list.
Yeah, so that's what it's about, is finding IDing products that actually matter to people. And so
Awesome.
That's what their specialty is in gifting memorable things.
I'm going to put a plug in, which is if you buy socks, there's a young man I used to coach, and now he owns a company called John's Crazy Socks. He has Down syndrome, and he has a sock company. He makes custom socks. And I always tell vendors, buy your socks there. You're helping a individual, that I think is important.
That's cool. That's cool.
That's cool.
That's a great story too. But I do have to tell you, Jackie, there's one that stands out for me because my wife still uses it to this day. And this is where, Bruce, maybe that giftology has some thoughts of who your audience is when you're doing this and addressing the whole audience. Liongard did these hooks that you could put on a counter and hang your purse at a bar.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife to this day still uses it. She'll whip it out of her purse, do it, and hang her purse up. And I'm thinking that's at least 2.5, 3 years now since those were out, right? So something that's still out there.
How do you make that?
Used.
How do you still show your brand though and not make it cheesy? So you want to say Liongard on, you want to have your little, snippet or whatever, but you don't want to put your phone number and what you do, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're investing in swag or any kind of promotional item, you're really your target and your goal should be brand awareness more than conversion. Like, you're just really trying to stick in people's mind and make sure that there's some positive association, whether, if it's a purse hook and we're the only vendor that's handing out something that is targeted specifically towards people that use purses, which is primarily women, that's something that they're going to remember. And then, with your follow-up marketing, your nurture campaigns and things like that is when you can really kind of start to have that conversation about what differentiates Liongard from, a different vendor. But really and one thing that I really try to focus on when we're producing swag is how do we make something that looks good, that people actually want to wear? Like so many of these shirts that you get at shows, it's covered in their logo. And it's like, well, I might wear it to the gym, or I might wear it to run around and do some chores in, but I'm not going to wear it out, when I'm traveling. So like our baseball hats that we did in November, it just has the lion logo on the front, and our logo's cool. I mean, I'm a little biased, but our logo is cool. So it's something that people would actually want to take out and kind of wear.
It's different, right? It's not the same old thing that everybody does.
One of the offshoots is as you find out you're old, when you were young and your kids were young, you'd bring home your bag of swag and they would rumble through it and take things and now you walk home and they go, we don't need that junk.
Oh yeah.
So I'm waiting for grandkids.
Well, I think the other thing is after you've attended so many shows, how many triplicate do you have of something that's similar? And if I look in my cabinet now and from my days as an MSP, I look at how many hot cold cups are sitting in my. I'm like, I need a cabinet just for hot cold cups. I'm like, we need to purge some of this, and then maybe rebuild if we want. But there's only 2 of us in the house now, so I don't need 40 hot cold cups.
I have a college daughter, and she's into Save the World. So like when I go to Panera to get my coffee in the morning, so I use your reusable cup. And she loved it when for a while they were giving out the straws and those things, and she would take all that. I mean, she's like, you don't use anything more than once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So Jackie, we all strive to, like you said, get messaging and branding and all that. What's your favorite campaign and why? What's like the favorite campaign that you've ever done? Not necessarily just at Liongard. What's been the most fun that you've had with a campaign?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I'll do a 2-part answer here. I worked for Kraft Heinz as a consumer packaged goods specialist, and I was managing the branding and the packaging. And it was Kraft's idea, but we kind of ran with it on the packaging side. They had done a really cool campaign around equal pay between men and women, and making sure that, building a campaign to drive awareness around the fact that oftentimes women are paid less than their male counterparts. And we did some really cool packaging with some of their Planters products that they were doing on shelf. And the whole campaign basically it was the same bag of Planters trail mix that you bought, every weekend at the grocery store, but it was going to cost you, so much more to buy it this time, to kind of illustrate the discrepancy in pay. And that was a really fun campaign to work on because there were a lot of creative ideas. It was something that I really hadn't even considered. Everybody I think is at least aware of the wage gap between genders, but putting it in packaging and actually putting it on the shelves was really interesting, working through that with the marketing team and trying to figure out how do we make this approachable and not alienate people? How do we actually drive home a message that resonates with people rather than making people feel defensive or attacked, or opening people to a conversation, because it's a hard topic to talk about. And if you say to somebody, oh well, women are always paid less than men, everybody's gonna, especially if you say it to a man, they're gonna be like, well, is that my fault? Well, no, right? Most men aren't advocating that they get paid more than women because they think that they're superior in some way. But being able to have that conversation and spark that conversation, it was really interesting working through some of the feedback groups and the focus groups and hearing what people were saying, men, women, how they were reacting to it, and just figuring out how to make that campaign successful. And then I want to kind of cheat and do a 2-part answer, because we are working on a campaign at Liongard that we're going to be kicking off soon, that is highlighting our partners and the transformation and the success that they've had. And I'm really excited about it because, like I've said, I think probably 2 or 3 times now, it's about the people. And our partners are having success in the market, and it's exciting when they get to grow, or you see them acquire another MSP, or they take on a large customer that they haven't won before. And I'm really looking forward to spending time with them and understanding what did the before and after look like? And what is it like now? What's different about your MSP now than it was maybe 2 years ago? And how have your processes changed? And how's Liongard helped along the way? And, what is the future look like for you if you've already had this kind of growth? What does it look like to go forward?
Cool. Well, we'll look forward to that one. I know I will. I'm always looking at different things. We started doing some newer creative things out on social media that we don't talk out in public because we don't want everybody to get right in and do the copycat type thing, right? So since we have so many MSPs that we work with, but I think those are the things. My 5 key points: be seen, be heard, be deliberate, be consistent, and what is that 5th thing? Oh, be present. Those were always my 5 key things for sales and marketing people to kind of think about. But that's really cool on the packaging, though. You're seeing some more of that kind of stuff, and I constantly looking at. So what medium? We have all of these ways of delivery. We have print, we have social, we have web, we have search engine. Where do you see what are the greatest returns that you guys see for your marketing investment?
I think outside of your events, from a branding perspective and brand awareness, your website is going to be the largest representation of your brand that people have access to. It's mostly free. I mean, to visit a website, you can, I guess you can do it in a public library, so it is free, but from the vendor side, you are able to, or even from the MSP side, you are able to paint the picture of who you are and the type of person that you're looking for to do business with, and why it's important and why it's valuable. And it also gives you a place to share about the company. So where did the company come from? Who are the people that you're actually doing business with, kind of putting a face and a name to things. And then, it gives you a chance to educate people on something that maybe is your specialty. So you might be an MSP, but maybe your vertical is very specific to the medical industry, and you have a ton of information about strengthening your security posture in the medical industry. You can then become kind of the expert in that corner of the internet. And that's incredible to have that type of authority in the space and be able to reach your customers that way. And then from a branding perspective, it is the most visual representation of your brand that's out there, aside from your booth at events. So I think really investing there in your website and what the customer journey feels like on the website, and how people interact with your content, and where it drives them, and how you're delivering value to people is definitely where I would invest. And then, the in-person events, I just think that you can't really put a price on the conversations that you have with people, whether it's at your booth or at a cigar bar.
Yep. I think we all agree that the people buy from people they like.
Yep.
So that in person and that networking, and I find the hallway conversations in the bar are way better than the show floor anytime. The cigar lounge, the bar, having a drink, and just away from it all, kind of just talking and all that, getting to know each other, without a doubt, is number one. So yeah, so your website, that's like the biggest thing we always talk about, right? Is it's the home base for all of your digital footprint. It's where when anybody searches for you or their social or whatever, they always come back to your website, right? So that's like the home base. So if you don't have that shored up, it's that's like your critical mass section, right? So
Yep.
without a doubt. So what are some things that you think make it a good website?
Accessibility is one. I think making sure that the content that you have is accessible for a wide variety of audiences. You're not always on the vendor side. You're not always going to be, directing content at somebody that is in a technical role. There's lots of people that make up successful MSPs. So making sure that the content that's on your website is easily understood, it's digestible by a wide range. You can definitely have technical content on your website, but I don't think that it should be, the absolute focus, because sometimes your decision makers at MSPs maybe aren't as technical as, the people that are actually going to be implementing and using the software, and they need a place to go to really understand what value you're delivering to their business. And then, selling through the MSP, if you've got a product that you are able to sell through to their end customers, creating a space where that customer can turn around and go to your website and understand what you do is also important, because you're not only selling to the MSP, you're also selling to their customer. So if they go to your website and it's so technical and over their head that they just cannot comprehend what you do and why it's important and why they should be paying for it on their bill, you've got a bit of a challenge there for your MSP that is unnecessary. So I think making it accessible, number one, and then really focusing on the customer journey on your website, what the experience feels like. So I've come to your website because, somebody handed me a really cool hat that they saw at an event and said, hey, go check this company out. Okay, so I go to liongard.com, and where do I go? I'll click around and kind of browse through the menus and things, but creating an experience where there is a call to action on every page so that you're being pulled to kind of the next step of the education journey, and really getting to experience something from all sides is really important when you're thinking about how you're creating content, but where you're putting it on your site too.
That is important, because there's a lot of reasons MSPs should not white label everything. Legal reasons, and now liability reasons. So you look at it and you say, my customers know we use Liongard. I say, and then so having them go to a site because they want to see what is it, I'm paying this X number, that is confusing or too technical, won't support us. So then, as far as an MSP, I'm on the other side. What I look for from my vendor a lot is, what can you give me that I can quickly hand over to my potential clients to explain your value? Yep. And how can you support me in that endeavor? Because sometimes we're not business people, we're not marketing people, we're technical people, and we don't know how to talk to real people.
Yeah. And that is an area that we have chosen to focus this year, really, is creating content that you as an MSP can turn around and pass on to your end customers, that educates them on something that is important, and exactly why cybersecurity is important and why having a really strong security posture is important. But that's hard to turn around and explain to your end customers in a way that makes sense for them. And so how can we create content where we see the need? Cybersecurity is such a focus right now, and we see the need, but how can we create content that's not for you? Because you already know why you need a strong cybersecurity posture. You already know what the security frameworks are. How do we make content that you can then turn around and hand over to your customer to say, look, this is exactly why it's important, and it's digestible and it's understandable, and we're giving you a concrete takeaway from this that you understand. So when we come to you and say, here's where we're going to invest for you, you go, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Now I kind of understand what I'm defending against, or I understand where my weaknesses might be, or really how complex this is and how hard it is to manage, for security specifically.
Yep. And I think, probably we have an easier job on the vendor side because our products are somewhat unique. It's not as crowded of a space as it is on the service provider side. So, looking to you guys, when you look at each other, you have different things, but find things that differentiate you from your competitor, and put them right up front. Don't make people scroll pages deep. The user experience is key. The more you have to scroll, the less likely somebody is to stay. So,
well, Jackie brings up a great point when she starts talking about explaining cybersecurity. And I think as an industry, we have to take a lot of the blame, and we don't like, you go to a customer and say, Norton doesn't work, you need to replace it. But if you've been in the business long enough, you're probably sold them that Norton. And so, we have to take the end user's role and say, they're wondering, is this real, or is this the setup for just for you to sell me more stuff? See, I cleaned up my words there. And so I think that's an important journey, because they hear cybersecurity and they hear breach and they hear that, but I don't think it resonates. They just see this whole bag of tricks you want to sell, and it's real important to connect the dots for them.
Yep. And that is the area that our product team is focused right now is, security and educating the end user, SMBs on what it means to even have some sort of cybersecurity plan in place. And the challenge for any MSP is when you're doing your job well, the customer doesn't hear from you, you don't hear from the customer, and the customers do get this sense of complacency where it's like, well, I don't ever have to pick up the phone and put in a help desk ticket, so why am I paying you? And it's like, well, you're paying me because we're doing an excellent job. And it's the same is true with cybersecurity. People kind of become complacent when they have MSPs because they think, oh, well, my MSP's handling that for me. And yes, that is true. But we also all know that the human element of cybersecurity is the hardest to manage. And so it's really, how do you continue the conversation? We've sold you the product. We've explained that there is some level of threat out there for your business and why it's important for you to invest. But then now what? Like, what do I do as a small business owner? How do I continue this in-house, and why is it important? And then when you are an MSP and you say, you know what, this tool really isn't serving the purpose anymore, or it's not really equipped to do the job that we need it to do. How can you turn around and have that conversation with the MSP and to your point, say, hey, that product that we sold you 8 years ago, it's really not evolved with the market. But if you've already done some of the legwork of educating your customer on the necessity of the basics and what that framework looks like, it's a little easier to have that conversation to say, remember when we talked about, governance, for example, and we used an example of, locking your car twice instead of once. Well, that's kind of what we're going to do here with your MSP, and we're going to move you to this other tool that does this piece of the cybersecurity strengthening a little bit better. This is part of the plan that's going to make you a little bit stronger and more resilient.
Great point. So where is Liongard going to be? Are they down in Orlando this week?
We are not doing the Orlando show, but we do have a busy February and March planned. The next show we will be at is in Phoenix for the cybersecurity conference for IOTA. And then we will be doing the SMB MSP Rescue in Chicago. And of course, we'll be at Right of Boom at the end of February. So you can see, I wasn't making it up when I said we had a real security focus this year. We really are investing in that and believe that that's, our partners are telling us that that's really where they need the support and the help. And we think we're in a really great position to being a kind of centralized asset for them. We're in an awesome position for them to be able to, prove some of the compliance that they need to and do some of the reporting and really, show that they have the security posture that they think that they have. Right.
So you're talking about going down this road of cybersecurity, and you're going to be at a lot of these cyber shows. What is the roadmap? What are you allowed to share on that roadmap now?
What I'm allowed to share is that we've got a really exciting release coming in February in just a couple of weeks. And one of the big things that we are investing in is reporting. We did a lot of the kind of back end work at the end of last year to make reporting easier in app so that you can report on the data right from the platform rather than having to push it to other tools like Power BI. And we are releasing a series of CIS reports in the February release. So these will be 5 new report templates that will help MSPs align to CIS standards and really improving customer security posture is the focus. So, email security, asset inventory, account management, Windows patching, software inventory, all of those things that are really important when you're looking at cybersecurity. We are going to release those templates and we're going to continue to evolve on that as the year goes on. So you'll see more reporting capabilities from us. You'll see some more of these type of canned templates and you'll just see better insights within the platform that really guide some of those decisions about, is my customer secure? And if it's not, where do I need to focus? And if we are, how can I prove it?
Good points. Those are some strong things that are coming.
It's going to be
partners.
Exciting for our partners for sure. And continuing to have the conversation to see where do we go next, what is the need. And like I mentioned earlier with not a capital R recession. Where are our partners focused so that they are making sure they're prepared to survive, whatever kind of economic headwinds may be headed at us this year, and listening to them and really letting them guide the partner roadmap. I think that's one thing that we absolutely have gotten right from the beginning, is we are constantly listening to our partners and implementing their ideas. I think last year when we did the look back, somewhere around 40% of the ideas that we actually put into the platform came from our ideas portal, which is awesome because we're actually listening to our partners and letting them kind of guide the roadmap where they need to.
That's awesome. That's critical for anybody, right? The
Mhm.
feedback loop is the most important part, right? Listening to your customers, listen to what they're telling you. They're not telling you because they're mad at you. They're telling you what they want you to fix or solve for.
Sometimes they might be mad at us, but if you can get past that, there might be something really critical in there, and some of the best ideas do come when somebody is not happy with you. But that's okay, because if you can have the conversation and really kind of get to where's the crux of the issue and how can we solve it, sometimes you do end up with these
Okay.
phenomenal outcomes.
I keep feeling like I'm about to sneeze. I'm down and things are budding. It's only 60 degrees here in South Carolina, but it's starting to get to that point where things are starting to pop a little
I
bit.
drop, yeah.
So,
For some reason, we broke the teaming.
mute yourself, Keith. I'll mute him.
Hey, Pete, I got a question for you.
Sure.
So it's completely off topic, but has to do with Philadelphia football.
Oh, well, I'm not a Philadelphia guy, so that's
Well-
George's department, but I'd lived there long enough, so.
Maybe So I'm in Missouri, and one of the things that I heard on a podcast this week was, is it true that Philadelphia fans climb light poles when they win a game?
Oh, absolutely. They actually grease the light posts and the things like that. The police department and the public works, they go around and actually grease the poles.
Yeah, that's what they said. But they said that when they tried to grease them this past week, the Philadelphians still climb the poles.
Oh,
How are
they
they
don't
able
care.
to? How are they able to climb a greased pole?
They get on each other's shoulders and pull each other up and sit up on the traffic lights. They get up on top of the awnings of restaurants and sing the Eagles Fly or the Philly song and fall through them. I mean, I've never seen a fan base like I did. I grew up in northern New Jersey as a Giants fan and a Mets fan, and granted, New York fans we're a breed of our own, just like in any. But you get down to Philadelphia, boy, and they are hardcore. When their teams are doing great, they love them, and when they're not doing good, they want to run them out of town.
Yeah.
They're like telling them to get in the truck and move out in the midnight so they don't get hurt. But
I have to
yeah,
say-
no, they absolutely do. They absolutely do grease all the posts and stuff like that. So, and they still climb them. They don't care.
I've seen that, at a number of places, actually, a couple, but typically the places that I'm thinking of, and then with the word zoo. So it could be the San Diego Zoo. Yeah, where the chimpanzee, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, they do it in Philly, huh?
Well,
Yeah.
in Philly, back when they had Veterans Stadium before they built the Lincoln Financial Field, they actually had a jail on the lower level.
They
So
need it.
when-
They threw snowballs at Santa Claus.
well, they throw batteries, they throw snowballs, and they do stupid things. So the police would arrest them, take them down, and there was actually a judge right there to sentence you in the stadium. And you would get sentenced, and you would have to pay your fine, or you sat in jail.
The only thing, and George isn't here, but I wanted to point out, you're only going for your second ring. Not that I'm bitter, but it's only two.
Okay, well, it's all right. It's all right, Keith. It'll all be okay.
Hey, is it easier to climb the flagpoles when it's colder outside? So if it's frozen, does the grease gel up more?
I stay away from Philadelphia. The only games that I really go into or I would go in for was Flyers games when I lived in South Jersey, because my MSP was in South Jersey. So I would go in for Flyers games because they were pretty good. Occasionally I would go in with some friends for a football game, but you know what? It gets too cold in those stadiums, and I'm just, I'm too fragile to sit in that kind of cold.
So does the new stadium have a judge and a jury and a jail on the bottom?
No, they actually closed it a couple of years ago because everybody kind of calmed down, and batteries, they can't get through the metal detectors anymore with that kind of stuff. So I think it's a little tamer. But if you walk in and you're not in, I mean, if you walk into a Phillies game, it's most likely that you're going to see a pretty split fan base. But you walk into an Eagles game, it's going to be pretty lopsided, And when the Giants play Philadelphia, I bet both stadiums on opposite ends of the turnpike are probably equally filled up with just as rowdy fans. The rivalry is huge. Doesn't matter what the win or loss is against them. It's a rivalry that everybody just loves to go. And of course, the tailgating is ridiculous. What people have done to vehicles and stuff like that they bring to the tailgates are just crazy. So. And of course, if you get there, George will always take you for a cheesesteak, not a turkey steak. There's no such thing as a turkey steak in Philly. That's like
and the greatest joke. I love to give George a hard time and tell him the best cheesesteak is an AT&T Stadium, because I know that's mildly offensive to him.
It's mildly offensive to me too, because it's not.
But there actually
Philly,
is.
It's not a Philly cheesesteak. It's just.
It says Philly cheesesteak.
It may be in a name, but
Yeah,
not in any way, shape, or form anything else. That's like going to down to the Italian market and saying I'm going to get something like I can get in the stockyards. You know what I mean? It just doesn't happen, right? So
next time I go, I'm going to take a picture of Ryan and I standing in front of the Philly cheesesteak place. Just
well,
by the way,
he will be going to Super Bowl, so I'm sure we will see George on social media and everywhere else.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, we're at the end of this session. Jackie, I really enjoyed talking with you, and hope to see you out there. I don't know if you ever get to any events, but I surely find my way to a couple of them throughout the year, and look forward to speaking with you again and having you on. Just like any other week, I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to do my best, George, and say, let's see, because I barely use Zoom, but MSPinitiative.com is where you can come. You can see these live sessions. We do post them, and they are here, so you can always sign up for the next session, latest episodes, and all the other ones are posted here. We've been doing it for about 3 years now, and a lot of great industry folks on it. The community block parties you could talk about that everybody's known for, and there's a bunch coming. The last one was a blowout and great down there. New for this year is the MSP Community Minds. Right now we're planning the spring session to come down into Keith's neck of the woods and do a real educational, like we were talking about earlier, about community and helping MSPs grow through workshops, not speaking in PowerPoint presentations, where they actually walk out and have already blueprinted something that they can execute when they walk back through their doors in there. And then we've launched, and I haven't seen this one come up yet, but we have MSP community offers, and Jackie, we have room for you. So our partners that have been out there and sponsoring for years, if you have an offer that you'd like to get out in front of our community, we'd love to get it. So you can just send it on over to me or George, and we'll get it posted and advertised and help our partners grow, just like being a part of the family that we all are in the community. So we will be back, or George will be back on Thursday. Who knows? Maybe I'll stand in the background and heckle him over his shoulder. Could be. I know Ken's going to be there also. So you may get a culmination of a bunch of us, but I do know there is a guest. So we will wait until after we get the guest on to heckle and have fun. But there could be some live fun going on at the Zero Trust World. With that, I appreciate everybody coming out and joining us. And Bruce, what was the name of that book again?
Giftology.
Yeah, it's
All
called
right.
Giftology.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna order myself up a copy.
Yep. Well, thank you very much for your time, Pete, and to you and everybody at MSP Initiative. We really appreciate the work you guys do for the community. It's important work. So thank you very much for everything you guys do and orchestrating this.
And it's all made possible by friends and partners and sponsors like you. So thank you very much. Mutual admiration. So everyone have a great afternoon. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.